if Michael Jordan was a Magic card, what card would he be?
I think that once upon a time they tried to make the analog to Morphling, because Morphling could do it all, but then Morphling by modern standards is not nearly as impressive as it once was.
It's just not good.
Yeah.
Probably Jace. That seems like a very Michael Jordan-esque card.
Yeah.
Could be Ponder, as Jessie Butler's going to start off with one of those here in round number 4. Both these players with a draw early on in the tournament, 2-0-1.
Morphling is kind of like, it's kind of like Babe Ruth. Dominant at its time, but not clear it could hold up in modern standards.
Yeah, yeah.
The George Mikan of Magic.
So what's Torchling then?
Michael Jordan's much less impressive younger brother.
Maybe his baseball career?
Yeah, his baseball.
Okay.
The Birmingham
Yeah.
baseball career for MJ.
There you go. Thornling would fall somewhere in between. That would be an overweight Michael Jordan, I think.
Yeah.
His current state. As here's another Tundra from Butler. We saw him a little bit earlier in the day, made the semifinals of our Standard Open with Red White Burn before him being dispatched by Tyler Wynn. Also playing Burn. What won our Standard Open. And Butler just going to play a Flooded Strand. This one's going to be a slow one here.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of jockeying for Jace the Mind Sculptor is ultimately the end game that a lot of these decks are building towards. And Vendilion Click is going to play an important role, threatening people, getting information about hands, being able to fight over Jace. Occasionally these games come down to Stoneforge Mystic for equipment, but not necessarily going to be the case here.
People are claiming that I'm all about that squirrel opposition. Yeah, that's true. That's true. Vendilion Click coming in. Gonna break the parity here. Looks like we're probably gonna have a fight over this. Does Chihoy want to make a move? He's gonna start by sacrificing an Arid Mesa. Down to 19 he goes.
And the Blue-White-Red Miracles deck is so complicated to play, in part because there's so many implications for each shuffle. I mean, you're looking at fresh hits with Counterbalance, Brainstorm. So your fetch lands are really valuable resources. And of course you need mana in certain spots too. So even decisions as seemingly simple as this are quite complicated.
Yeah, sacrifice a Scalding Tarn as well. You see sacrificing the fetch lands one by one, it'd be easy to say, why don't you sacrifice them both at the same time? Well, as you mentioned, the fetch lands are very important. Also, which ones you sacrifice matter too, because, you know, this deck, part of the power of this deck is the fact that it has so many basics.
Yes.
So, you know, that Flooded Strand might be reserved for a Plains, whereas the Scalding Tarn can only search for an island or a non-basic. Here's a Brainstorm. So hit 1, 2, and 3. You see a Jace and a Red Blast picked up here. And again, the other thing too is that Yim doesn't know exactly what he's up against right now. We know it's Blue-White Stoneblade, just like you guys do at home, but he could also be against a deck that does have Wasteland.
It's not inconceivable. This could be an opening that you see from something like Blue-White-Red Delver. Vendilion Click's a little out of place in that list, but it's not impossible.
So Brainstorm is going to resolve. Some cards are going to go back. See if Yim wants to sacrifice the Flooded Strand yet. Going to Swords to Plowshares that, and the trigger here still on the stack. Entreat the Angels, along with a Red Blast, a Force of Will, a Spell Pierce, an Island, and a Flooded Strand. Let's see what card's going to go to the bottom here. If any. No guarantee.
Well, imagine Red Elemental Blast has to be an above average card throughout the course of this game here from Chihoy's side. Be surprised if Jessie left that.
And yes, that is main deck. It is game 1. If you're familiar with Joe Lissette's body of work, you know he starts some of those. A main deck Pyroblast and Red Elemental Blast in Yim's deck list. Let's pick up a card off of the card going to the bottom here. As Butler will take a draw, try to resolve a True Name Nemesis. See if this works for him. Looks like we're gonna have a little battle with Force of Will. Gonna remove Jace the Mind Sculptor.
It's not really clear. Jesse's hand allows him to do much more than try to get this True Name Nemesis into play, so this is probably worth the fight. And for a deck that's, you know, a control deck, True Name Nemesis is pretty potent against Blue-White-Red Miracles, all told. You can't lock it out with Jace, and you can't block it with Entreat tokens.
Flooded Strand going to come into play. Yim going to just pass the turn back. One thing about Chihoy, as we saw yesterday, and over the course of him on the Open Series, he loves decks that have no win conditions, or very few. He likes to grind you down and kill you eventually. That's exactly what Miracles does do. Playing a list that it looks almost exactly like Lissette's. There might be a few cosmetic changes here as Joe does change his deck list by a few cards every single week, but Chihoy has the Venser, he's got the Vendilion Clicks, the main deck Pyro and Red Elemental Blast. Even has the Singleton Counterspell as well.
The structure of Shuhoi's deck yesterday during the standard portion did come back to haunt him, though. He was playing a very, very threat-light build of blue-white, even by blue-white standards, a threat-light build. And we watched him draw a match he would almost have certainly won with an extra turn or two, in part because he had no way to end the game quickly. And you see him here already with a draw. Decks like this, you know, they can be very powerful, but they're often challenging to play in a tournament setting because time is a big factor.
Especially in Legacy, where you're doing a lot of fetching, brainstorming, pondering. There are certainly a lot of decisions to be made on both sides. It's not as straightforward as it is in Standard, and in Standard he was drawing.
Yes.
See what's going to happen here. I'm dealing with causing a little bit of trouble. It's a Snapcaster Mage. You see Butler taking a look at a hand of Force of Will ×2, along with a counter spell and a Swords. Brainstorm going to resolve here.
Jessie seems unwilling to use this Force of Will to fight over anything small. Didn't want to protect his True Name Nemesis, didn't want to fight over the Snapcaster Mage. I think he's saving it for Chase, Entreat the Angels, or some other similar haymaker.
So Yim is going to have to put 2 cards back here from the Brainstorm. Does have the Flooded Strand to make it a perfect Brainstorm if he'd like. We'll see what cards he wants to put here on top. He's a little bit unsure of himself here. Big decisions to be made whenever you're playing Miracles.
It's tough. I mean, like I said, there's implications for every decision, including just things as innocuous seeming as using fetch lands.
2 Brainstorms to Spell Pierce and Entreat the Angels. And Dealing Click's going to see if anything's going to go to the bottom here. Yim still has not put that Entreat onto the top of his deck, trying to kind of float that in his hand with Brainstorm there.
He can set it down whenever he wants to and get it back, so there's no big rush.
And Entreat's going to go to the bottom. You have to imagine that he knew that was something that could happen here. So now Butler's going to get to untap with the Vendilion Click. Draws a Flooded Strand for the turn. Going to drop that down. Attack here for 3. Yim's going to go down to 13. Again, Butler with a lot of permission in his hand. 2 Force Wills, that Counterspell, and that Swords. Hand's not so bad. Can protect the Click for a little while.
Yeah, and again, his hand right now doesn't really allow him to do very much else. So I think he's going to start getting much more aggressive about trying to protect this Click and use it to try to win the game.
Yim going to sacrifice the Flooded Strand on his upkeep here. See what land he wants to search out here. Might go Basic Hunting, might go non-Basic Hunting. Looks like he's going to go for a Tundra.
Now, importantly, this sets Shuhoi down to 12, which means now the Click is a 4-turn clock.
We are in increments of 3. Well, it's time for a draw step. Could be a miracle, but it's not. It's just a basic island. It's time to go topping. And in comes the Snapcaster Mage for 2. Butler's going to go down to 19.
And I like Jessie choosing not to fight over the Sensei's Divine Top, even though it's a threatening card. Shuhoi with no way to shuffle his deck. So right now, it's not really representing a lot of value.
There's a lot of fetches, too. It's going to spin the top here. Takes a look at another top and Entreat the Angels. Some other stuff, so pretty good look on the top. Entreat a 2 of here in Yim's deck list, along with the 4 copies of Terminus, so 6 miracles here. No bonfires, unfortunately. My favorite miracle.
With a red splash, even. I mean,
it's basically free.
It's essentially free.
See if he wants to make a move. Brainstorm says yes. A couple of cards are drawn. Gonna put back a Plains and an Entreat. Spin the top again. Maybe looking for something very specific here. Gonna put Entreat to the top of the deck. And the damage is dealt. Everything is done. And now here's an Entreat the Angels. The question is how much is it gonna be for us? Here's a counter spell. Yeah, and I think I think Butler was a little bit hasty there because Yim hadn't decided how much he wants to do it for. You know, there was a chance if he didn't get the counter spell right away that Yim would say all of it. All my mana. But now that he's been so quick with the counter spell and Yim didn't announce exactly how much he was gonna do it for, it's too quick a play by Butler. It has nothing to do with Yim.
You gotta wait. It's still a spell on the stack, and Shuhoi has to pay all costs. So nothing illegal went out there. Jessie was just a little bit too quick to act.
Brainstorm the second main. You're going to take a look at a couple cards. Counterbalance among them. You also see a Flooded Strand there. If he's looking for a shuffle effect, got to put a couple cards back, however.
And now it's just an issue of finding an answer to this Vendilion Click in time.
Well, at 9 life has a little bit of time, but not a ton. See if it's time to drop the counterbalance down. That's the question. You see Butler's hand, 2 Forcibles and a Source of Plowshares. Just trying to protect from dealing click at all costs. Butler going to get to untap, take a draw here. Picks up a copy. It looks like Jace the Mind Sculptor. In for 3 we go. Game is going to go down to 6. Will they be able to find an answer? Going to spin top one more time. Click trying to go the distance. Didn't think one creature would cause such trouble.
But
the Miracles deck.
If you want to know why people haven't cut Trinity Nemesis altogether from decks, Vendilion Click is a big incentive. Being able to provide some disruption in these kind of matchups is really important. Trinity Nemesis is good here as well, but Vendilion Click is also quite powerful.
Looks like our good friend Countermounts is going to join the party. Will Butler fight over this?
Looks like he's got a plan of just Force of Will. He has 2 Force of Will backups, right? One that he can all cast using the Jace, the other one he can hard cast. I think he sensed some amount of weakness from Chihuahua. He may not be able to answer this Vendilion Click, and that's what the plan is all about now.
Butler going to untap, take a draw. This is an attack for 3. 3 mana here for Yim. This is a Vendilion Click. That is an alternate cast Force of Will with a Spell Pierce. There is a counterbalance trigger that can go on the stack here as long as Yim does stack his effects appropriately. He will put counterbalance on the stack, knows the top card of his deck, so he's going to sacrifice his Flood Strand. See if he can find a 5 here. There's a Plains.
And if he's able to trade here, things get really bad for Jessie.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Because he is running out of spells he's going to be able to resolve for the remainder of this game.
It's kind of this Vendilion Click or bust, honestly. Take a look at the top 3. You see an Entreat among the other cards. Not sure if you found a Force of Will or not. Force of Will is the card he's looking for. 5 mana. Oh, boy. Force on the Force. That is tough. All you can do is shrug those shoulders now. And the Source of Plowshares, well, that gets taken care of by the Sensei's Divining Top. So Butler looks like he got very close. Here are the 3 cards in his hand. You see the Jace, you see the Force, and you see the Swords. Yim will decide if he wants to put any of those cards on the bottom of the deck and give Butler a fresh card. Going to decide how much those matter, given that he knows the top 3 cards of his deck and the couple of cards in his hand. And you know those Vendilion Clicks are going to trade now.
Yeah, since the Jace is at minimum worth a Brainstorm, I would imagine that Jace goes to the bottom here. It just depends if there's any particular card that Chihuahua is especially concerned with Jessie drawing this exact turn.
Yeah, kind of scary to let Jace just hang around there because it's Jace. But is it okay to just let Jace stay around right now? It doesn't seem like the worst. I'm going to take a look at the hand before making a decision here. And quite the decision to be made.
You don't know, there could be Supreme Verdict in Jessie's deck.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden this Jace becomes a headache. It's going to leave it.
There's a trade. Clicks will both go to the graveyard. Butler's going to follow up here, I think, with the Jace. I think Yim's plan here might be I can just draw a card with top, draw the Force of Will, and Force of Will this with the blue card. That looks like it's what it's going to be. Just draw a card with top. Is that okay? Going to sacrifice Flooded Strand here.
So he's doing this in response, so the Sensei's Divine Top isn't on top of the deck.
Yep.
This allows Jessie an opportunity to source the Plowshare of this Snapcaster Mage, rather.
And now there goes Stappy. Yim going to gain some life. You can see Butler kind of hammer the table a little bit. Feels like, you know, man, this one may have gotten away from me here. Top on top. Force, removing a blue card. It'll be a Spell Pierce. There goes Jace. Now Butler's just got 1 card left in his hand. It's a Force of Will, which Yim does know. So he's exhausted Butler's resources. He has a top coming, also has a top in the grip. He knows 2 of the top cards of his deck. The 3rd one is a mystery down low.
So if Chihuahua was willing to use Force of Will in that spot, I'm not quite sure what he was playing around by not putting the Jace on the bottom except for just Supreme Verdict.
Sure.
And even Supreme Verdict, at that point, the Clicks have traded.
I suppose that's true. I guess, like, you just don't know what your opponent could draw for that. Like, if you put the Jace to the bottom, you're not sure what your opponent can draw. I guess you make the argument that there's nothing better than Jace, but also the certainty of knowing it's Jace and you can counter it is probably pretty comforting.
Sure.
There's Stoneforge Mystic. See if this is going to resolve. Yim's top cards right now. He's got an Entreat up there along with the Terminus. And that Stoneforge is going to resolve. Again, this is the kind of game that Yim wants to play. He likes his decks to not do very much, grind you out of resources and win at his leisure. He's been able to do that twice today. Did pick up a draw trying to attempt it, but it looks like he's going to wrestle game number 1 away here from Butler unless he's able to put together something really nice here soon.
This Batter Skull is unlikely to get it done in the face of this Entreat.
Yeah.
So.
I think that's the big problem. The other problem here, too, is that Yim knows exactly all the cards in Butler's hand. He knows it's Batter Skull Force of Will. He saw that with the click, so as long as he has recorded the information appropriately, the green light is actually on for Entreat the Angels right now.
Yeah, there's the question of does he want to Terminus this turn and then Entreat the following turn, or?
I want to Entreat. Give me 4 Angels. I can just kill you.
Yeah, I agree. It just, he has to contemplate this for a moment.
Give me 4 Angels. That's my turn. I know what's on top of my deck, and what's the worst that you can do? So there are your 4 Angels. I'm going to pass the turn back. Over to Butler, who's going to draw a card. It's a copy of Scalding Tarn. That's not going to get it done, and Chihoy Yim is going to win game number 1 here. Blue-White-Red Miracles up a game over Jessie Butler and Blue-White Stoneblade. You see the players sharing a laugh. They're pretty familiar with each other. Same kind of PTQ area. Open Series events have both been played by these guys as well. We're going to move on to the sideboards just like them. You've got Jessie Butler in front of you.
A Supreme Verdict, 2 Rest in Peace, 2 Fluster Storm, Path to Exile, 3 copies of Meddling Mage, and Reiki Gensari, a Detention Sphere, 2 copies of Swan Song, a Humility, and a Trinity Nemesis. I really like the Trinity Nemesis, the 3 copies of Meddling Mage, and the 2 Fluster Storms, and the Detention Sphere. Basically, a little more tempo, a little more removal.
Other side of things, 2 Red Blast, a Vendilion Click, 2 copies of Supreme Verdict, a Venser Shaper Savant, 2 copies of Wear and Tear, 2 Rest in Peace, a Sulfur Elemental, a Relic of Progenitus, a Pithy Needle, and 2 copies of Fluster Storm. Well, gotta love Red Blast. You know, he's got 1 of those in his main deck and a Pyroblast, so I want more of that effect. Yeah, Vendilion Click's pretty good at simply trading with other Vendilion Clicks, but also getting information. You probably like that. You can argue about Supreme Verdict here. An Uncounterable Wrath is probably pretty good. Also a blue card to remove a Force of Will. Don't know if he wants an additional Venser. The first one may not even be that good in this particular matchup. Wear and Tear, certainly okay when you're playing a deck that has to have Stoneforge Mystic. So just a lot of options here for him.
And you can expect that he has some enchantments in his sideboard like Detention Sphere or Oblivion Ring he may be bringing in as well.
Yeah.
So Wear and Tear is a really safe card to bring in.
You can make an argument for Pithy Needle as well. Yeah. You saw Jace.
To me, the big one here is the Supreme Verdicts. It's really hard for Jessie to play the game effectively against this card because his whole game plan is kind of get out in front on the board and protect things with counter spells before you're able to assemble a defense. And Supreme Verdict throws a wrench into all that.
And this is actually what makes Legacy one of my favorite formats too, is because you take a look at this sideboard that we mentioned for Yim. We'll run it down again. 2 Red Elemental Blast, a Vendilion Click, 2 Supreme Verdicts, a Venture Shaper Savant, 2 Wear and Tear, 2 Rest in Peace, a Sulfur Elemental, Relic of Progenitus, a Pithy Needle, and 2 copies of Fluster Storm. You can make arguments for about 11 of those cards to come in this matchup, and it's hard to say if any of those are right or wrong.
You're right. There's a lot of flexibility in a lot of different ways that Chihoy may want to play the matchup. But to me, I think his best plan is, you know, Counterbalance Top is pretty powerful in the matchup, so is Supreme Verdict, and he can win arbitrarily after that point. So either setting up Jace or setting up Entreat the Angels, that's going to be good enough to beat Jessie as long as he keeps the board relatively stable.
We'll see how both players do decide to sideboard here, as if you are just joining us, we're in round 4 of 8 here in Knoxville. Star City Games Legacy Open. From Evan Irwin's hometown, Knoxville, Tennessee. Cedric Phillips, Patrick Sullivan. It's been fun thus far. Tyler Wynn winning our Standard Open, undefeated all the way through. Number 1 seed in the elimination rounds, number 1 in our hearts, and the only player left standing after our Standard Open concluded this morning. See who's going to win our Legacy Open here. Again, the race between Rill, Van Meter, and Lisette is on. Fabiano probably playing in some IQs this weekend. See if he can catch up as well. It's been a fun race to watch. Van Meter is 1-2, however, so his top 8 dreams are likely dead. We know that Lisette did pick up a draw earlier in the tournament, and then Eric Rill started off 3-0. So pretty good stuff there.
It's going to be a really close race. I think New Jersey and Indianapolis are going to be quite fun with all those players duking it out for those points.
Yeah. I think Indy is just going to be crazy to watch. Jersey. And we make our way to Columbus as well. Again, Eric Rill did start off 3-0 here. Andrew Snyder with Blue Red Delver, 3-0. Expert Incini, 3-0. He made top 8 yesterday with Black Green Devotion. McDarby, 2-1 with his Veteran Explorer Planeswalker deck. Hooglin, actually don't know what he's on this weekend.
Probably some Mox Diamond Loam deck. Usually that's what he's doing.
2-1 as well. We'll take a look at the second page. You see Lisette. Uh-oh. 1-1-1. I don't know if he wins out, if he can make it or not. We'll see. And then a lot of players, Van Meter, Atkins, Ketter, players who are chasing Open Series points, not only for Season 2, but for the overall. Not a good tournament for them. And then Tyler Wynn, our standard Open champion, 1-2. He's out of here.
The curse continues.
Hey, nobody said it'd be easy to go back-to-back here. So you do see a Plains from Butler, Yim with a Tundra.
But it's been especially rough lately.
Yeah, it really has been. There's Stoneforge Mystic. See if this resolves.
Now, Mishra's Factory possibly gives Jessie a totally different angle of attack in this matchup. Chihoi's Jaces are a little less stable, and it's harder for him just to win with Supreme Verdict. So you don't see Mishra's Factory a lot in these decks, even though it's incredibly powerful. But this may be a matchup where Mishra's Factory does a lot of work.
Yim will take a draw. As you did see Stoneforge Mystic search up the old Batter Skull, and here is a Brainstorm. You see that Yim does have a Terminus in his hand, so the chances are he's going to probably want to put that back on top of his deck. Also picked up a copy of Entreat the Angels as well as a Pyroblast. So a lot of options here for the Miracles player.
But already you can feel this is getting off to a better start for Jessie than the previous game did.
Yeah.
He already has a source of pressure that Chihoi has to answer pretty quickly. And again, the Mishra's Factory gives him another totally different angle of attack. And no Wastelands in Chihoi's list naturally, so Mishra's Factory is going to be problematic.
This Brainstorm is certainly big, and you can see that Yim is taking his time and analyzing things. He knows what Stoneforge Mystic can bring to the table, which is a Batter Skull, potentially other equipment. The tough thing here is that the Brainstorm kind of lays out the foundation for the next couple of turns for him.
Yeah.
What's important, what's not? Do you want to fetch things away? He's just going to play a basic island before passing the turn back. So the cards that are on top are pretty important to him, as Butler is going to pick up and play an Arid Mesa. See a bunch of blue cards over there in his hand with the Batter Skull.
I imagine with the Spell Pierce in hand, Jessie's not going to be in a big rush to move.
Terminus comes rolling off the top. There is Spell Pierce. That Butler's going to cast off of the Arid Mesa. See if he wants to search up a Tundra here, and he will. So it looks like Terminus is going to get countered.
And even more of a great start for Jessie here. Already start to feel Chihoi is quite a bit under the gun.
I guess the question is, how scared of Batter Skull are you if you're Yim, as it's going to come into play now?
You're scared insofar as just any threat card is pretty good this early in the game.
Meddling Mage to draw. That's a big one.
As a card that gets the name Supreme Verdict or Terminus, if Jessie is wary of either of those cards.
Second Factory going to come into play. You mentioned that could play a role here. Going to fire up a Factory right now. Little damage racing. And going to leave Stoneforge Mystic back. Interesting. So they're going to get an attack there for 6. Even going to go down to 14. Butler just going to pass the turn back.
Interested to see Chihoi try to work around these factories. It almost certainly involves Jessie getting sloppy and Chihoi walking him into some sort of Terminus.
Entreat the Angels for 1 here. Off the top. Another Miracle. And that's going to resolve. There's your 4/4. And Yim, with no land to play, just has to pass the turn back over to Butler, who draws a Jace the Mind Sculptor.
Well, cannot cast it. He is lacking double blue.
There's your Caracas. Little bit awkward there. You see the Angel's going to trade with the Germ token. Butler, anything else to do this turn? Could equip the Batter Skull over to Stoneforge. Can't leave the ability to pick up the Batter Skull and put back into play with the Stoneforge. A lot of options here for him, but he just passes the turn back with 5 mana available over to Yim. See if he can find a 4th land. 2 mana. That's a Snapcaster Mage. Somebody needs a Brainstorm. Gonna try to cast one. And there is your Brainstorm. See if Butler's interested in letting that happen. That's a Batter Skull. Gonna get picked up and put back into play. So let's make sure that is good to go, and it is. So now Yim is going to resolve the Brainstorm. You saw him pick up a Flooded Strand and a Jace. Among the other cards, he's definitely got to put 2 back. We'll see how things go here for Chihoi.
And Jessie's doing all this with a lot of protection left over, too. He has Meddling Mage in the event that there's ever a specific card that he's worried about, and of course, Force of Will and Blue card are also in his hand this whole time.
Decisions.
This is tough. Chihoi's just getting attacked from so many angles right now is a part of the problem.
Feels like game one, but he was able to pull it out.
Yeah, although, again, the factories just make this so much different. He can no longer just set up Supreme Verdict. That was a route that he had in the first game that no longer works. So Chihoi with just a land and sends it back.
Yeah, I mean, Strand's not bad here. Allows him to shuffle. Needed a fourth land for that Supreme Verdict, so you actually got to kind of like it. I agree with you, however. The bigger problem is the card he's activating.
Yeah. He can't block with the Snapcaster because he can pump the factory with his other factory.
You know, wait, as much coverage as we've done this year, I have not seen a lot of factories.
Mr. Factory is one of the most powerful cards that sees very little play in Legacy.
We talk about how great Mutavault is. This is basically an analog. You could argue better than Mutavault.
Well, the biggest issue is just there's a big opportunity cost of playing colorless lands because of Wasteland, and games are over so fast sometimes that there's not a lot of room to be messing around with things like Mr. Factory. But in matchups like this, Factory is very, very good.
I'm going to sacrifice that Flooded Strand on his upkeep, clear away some of the garbage, see if he's going to go hunting for a Volcanic Island here. Again, we know he's got access to Red Blast and Pyroblast, 3 and 1 of each, and he's going to go get himself a Volcanic Island, turn those cards on. You also notice that he has double white to cast Supreme Verdict as well.
Yeah.
And it's actually got to be a pretty good feeling. I don't know. We don't know if he knows this. It looks like Butler and Yim are friends, but you don't know if he knows that, you know, it's actually pretty safe to Wasteland. It's not there.
Yeah.
From the other side of the table. Yeah, there's Supreme Verdict. Not going to counter that, my friend. Get that Batter Skull, that Stoneforge out of here.
This may be opening up the opportunity for Jessie to resolve something even more powerful like just the Mind Sculptor.
That card's like okay.
It's pretty good in this spot. Opponent with no board, no ability to attack.
Yeah, it's like not bad. Gonna pick up Batter Skull here. Could potentially shuffle it away. And research for it. There's Stoneforge. I swear I'm not from the future. But it seems like just playing Jace is easy this turn, but there are a lot of decisions actually.
Yeah, there's Jason, and then how do you want to follow up?
Yeah.
I mean, he can play another Stoneforge Mystic, he can hit with the Mistress Factory.
I feel like he wants to keep damage racing, gonna play Stoneforge. I expected him to play Jace. Still can, as he set the necessary mana aside. Now here's just Sword of Fire and Ice. That adds another dimension to things.
And now he can attack with both factories, still play Jace, or play Meddling Mage and hit with one factory. Just a plethora of options.
We're going beatdowns. How do you feel about not even trying to get Jason to play?
Oh, this is fine. I mean, you don't know. Chihoi could have Force of Will for all you know, so it's a little rough to use your entire turn that way.
We've got Force Will on our side, though.
I don't know if he wants to pick that kind of fight.
Okay.
Maybe you're just getting untapped and getting hit by Red Elemental Blast the next turn. It's really hard to imagine Chihoi beating this.
Yeah. I mean, when you've got that many decisions to make, you know, you could redeploy Batter Skull. You could play Jace and attack with a factory. You could attack with two factories, play Stoneforge. You know, he's got so many options. You could play Meddling Mage on either Entreat or Terminus or something like that. Meddling Mages are actually a pretty hard card to name with the situation. There's so many, and he just does what seems like a rather simple line, which is fire up two factories and play a Stoneforge.
You know that Chihoi has a lot of ways to contain the board. I mean, he's got counter spells. He's got, sweepers, ways to answer individual permanents. It's a lot less clear if he has a way to just stop these man lands from hitting him. So I like Jessie just trying to maximize this.
Time to go Pondering. That's going to add another dimension because he's looking at Swan Song, True Name, and Brainstorm. All those cards are good and have an impact on the game. They're all blue for Force of Will as well. Me oh my. This is hard stuff here.
And True Name is another powerful angle of attack because it just demands a sweeper by itself.
He's going to keep. He's just going to pass the turn back. No attacks with factories. Has Stoneforge Mystic up. At least it looks like he's just going to pass the turn back, yeah. I'm going to play a Venser on the end step. I wonder what we're going to see this bad boy do. This could cost some action.
I don't know. It's possible that Jessie just says that's fine.
Looks like Stoneforge's going to go active. Batterskull going to come in. There's your token. Stoneforge's going to go back to the grip. You're going to untap, take a draw here. A red blast is picked up for the turn.
You can see Supreme Verge in Shuei's hand, but that's not offering him very much here.
Yeah, because, I mean, those factories are making Supreme Verge look really bad.
Mm-hmm.
Really, really bad. Is our Miracles player going to be able to work his way out of this? This seems just really tough to get out of.
It's asking a lot right now.
Yeah. And the tough part here is I don't even think Yim knows everything that he's up against. How many things he's got to try to beat? Here's a counterbalance. Normally a really good card. It's just pretty mediocre right now. But then again, that thing can flip over the right card at the right time. He's staring at Swan Song as Butler. Does he want to counter this? Give it 2-2?
Yeah, I'm a little surprised to see Swan Song come into this matchup just because 2/2 flyers are meaningful cards against Jessie.
Brainstorm picked up here for Butler. We saw Jessie cast that Ponder last turn. It seemed like, it seems like he has everything that he needed already. So how much did casting Ponder matter? Same thing can be said for this Brainstorm. He's got so many options in his hand. Does he need more?
Well, I think it's more of an issue of just leaving up mana to be able to react with maximum efficiency. Jessie, for example, can fire up a factory and attack with that and the Batterskull, which is a lethal attack because the factory can pump. Metzer doesn't have a profitable block, and if Shuei chumps, then you're fine, you just pass the turn back, and if Shuei does something, then maybe you respond.
Mana gonna get tapped. This is a Stoneforge Mystic. Wonder what this is gonna go searching for. He's already got the sword in the grip. Just gonna shuffle. Okay. Nothing to search for, and he says, all right, attack with my Batterskull.
I wonder if he was at least hoping to bait out a reveal to know what he could follow up with. He maybe have been willing to throw away the Stoneforge Mystic just for information.
You wonder if Chihoi didn't counterbalance that on purpose, knowing that his opponent's out of equipment.
Yeah.
Little game inside the game as Jim does pick up another copy of Jason Mind Sculptor that he does not look comfortable casting at this point. Levels upon levels upon levels.
And Shuei is also bottlenecked on mana, and so many of his cards cost 4. I mean, everything that he's looking at is his entire turn.
Yeah, able to slide the Fencer in because of it having flash. Now I'm going to try to get Jason. I mean, this might be a situation, too, where Butler's like, that's fine. I'm going to make my move now. I have sword.
Not only does he have sword, he has a lethal attack on board. Even if Shuei were to, say, bounce the Germ token, then, Jessie can simply fire up the 2 factories and attack with that and the Stoneforge Mystic, and Shuei doesn't have any blocks.
You see the Force Will going to take care of the Jace. Chihoi reveals a Sensei's Divine top to the counterbalance and going to concede the game. So game number 2 heads Jessie Butler's way, and we're going to fire up a third one here in just a little bit between Blue-White Stoneblade and Blue-White Red Miracles.
3 copies of Mistress Factory in Jessie's list here, and you had to believe they are really important for him to win this matchup. As you saw, that second game, a lot of that came down to just Mistress Factory. There was a lot of free damage. There was a lot of turns where Chihoi was holding up reactive elements or counter spells, and Jessie was able to play around them very easily by just attacking with Mistress Factory.
Factory big. Really, really big. Again, it's a card that we have not seen a lot of over the course of Season 1 or 2. But it had a huge effect, and that might be a card that actually people might go towards maybe to beat Miracles. A lot of trouble with that card. And I also wouldn't be surprised if Yim definitely brings in the Pithing Needle now. He may have brought it in for game 2 because you saw Jason Stoneforge, but you got to believe it's in now because Factory caused a lot of trouble.
Yeah, it's not clear that Shuei cares that much about equipment, so maybe you don't bring it in for that game just to fight over Stoneforge Mystic and so forth, but once you see Mistress Factory, it's got to be coming in.
Yeah. Both players realizing how much time is left here and that the games do take a little while. We're going to be under 16 minutes in just a little bit here of round 4 of 8 of our Legacy Open here in Knoxville.
I know the last time it is that I've seen Mistress Factory in a list without Standstill. I almost always associate those cards as being paired with one another.
You want to talk about a card we haven't seen for a while. Standstill. It doesn't even, I mean, we barely even see Merfolk, and it barely sees play in that deck, and that's a vile That's an Aether Vial deck. And has Mutavaults, too. It's a great Standstill deck. We haven't seen Standstill in forever.
I think Standstill is a little rough in a world where even the control decks are playing Deathrite Shaman. You're just behind early.
I want Standstill to have a home. I like that card.
Still okay. I think Merfolk is still okay as a deck. It's just not what it used to be.
I think Standstill is just a cool card design. That's all.
It's more cool as a thought experiment than it is cool in play, influencing people's plays.
You're such a game designer.
It's true. I apologize. I know it ruins a lot of my spikiness or whatever, but it is what it is.
Scalding Tarn to begin for both players as Jim will take a draw. A Tundra before passing the turn back over to Butler. You see a counterspell now. True Name Nemesis in the grip. Also has a Meddling Mage. Just going to play a Plains. Pass the turn back over to Yim. Takes a draw. Picked up a Brainstorm. Going to play a Scalding Tarn before passing it back. Pretty simple stuff here from both players as Butler does pick up a Brainstorm. Again, they can just make their land drops for now, but once the action starts to heat up, with under 15 minutes left on the clock, they don't have really a lot of time to mess around here. Here's a Brainstorm.
The big issue for Jessie right now is he doesn't have double blue, and a lot of his hand is blue dense. I mean, he has Meddling Mage, Brainstorm, Counterspell, and True Name Nemesis he can't even cast right now. And in these control mirrors, often it comes down to trying to chain together multiple spells, and that's going to be really challenging to do if he's not able to find a second blue mana quickly.
On the upkeep, after Yim does put back 2 cards with Brainstorm, it's time to sacrifice the Scalding Tarn. Gonna search out a Tundra here. The other Scalding Tarn may be reserved for a Volcanic Island, be able to cast those Red Elemental and Pyroblast in this sideboard game. Looks like Yim may have dropped a couple, but it looks like we're all good to go here. He'll finish shuffling up and then take his 4th turn of this game. See what he's able to find with his draw. Adds a basic mountain. Ha!
Get it?
To his hand. I'm proud of myself.
That was a good one.
Thank you.
I suspect that Jesse's getting a blue mana here because he wants to Brainstorm at the end of the turn.
Also because he kind of needs one.
Honestly. Yeah, he needs to smooth out this hand a little bit. It's a little rough around the edges, to say the least.
And it is Brainstorm time. Be surprised if there's a fight over this. And there won't be. 3 cards coming.
It appears as though he's found an island.
Looks to be the case.
So Jessie can start unlocking larger parts of his hand now.
Time to put 2 back, and then I'll have to draw one of them. So there are 2 cards. Brainstorm does resolve. Time to untap. Time to draw a card that he knows is coming. It's a Meddling Mage. It looks like no fetch land at all, so there's an island. Let's see what this is going to be. It's an attempt at a Stoneforge Mystic, which will allow him to search for an equipment and give him a shuffle. Chihoy says that resolves.
Suspiciously leaving up blue.
Not that suspicious. There's old Batterskull.
So Jessie finally on the board with something proactive. It feels like it's a little late for him to basically start the game at this point.
Yeah. This is exactly how Chihoy wants things to go. Slow and steady. Been dealing click time.
It is telling that the game that Jessie won, he was on the play with a turn to Mistress Factory Stoneforge Mystic.
Mm-hmm.
And here it's taking him a little while to get something going.
The fun thing about dealing click is it forces the action from the opponent. And that's what you like if you're Chihoy in this position. Chihoy looks like he's going to battle. You saw the Force Lord remove the Meddling Mage to attempt to counter the 3/1 Legendary Fairy. Chihoy immediately sacrificing the Scalding Tarn, probably looking for that Volcanic Island, and he is. Going to get that out. Looks like we're going to see one of these Red Blast effects here.
And Chihoy is going to be a little suspicious that there's other counter spells left over in Jessie's hand here. As you see the Meddling Mage got pitched to Force of Will. Jessie decided to do this in lieu of just casting Meddling Mage last turn.
But I imagine you're probably okay with this exchange. Getting some of the counter magic out of Butler's hand. Your deck is certainly... Yep, that's a miracle. There's Terminus. That's going to put that to the bottom. You see that big exchange take place. Some counter spells go away for both players. Now Terminus takes care of the Stoneforge Mystic. So not a bad exchange there as Ponders the draw here for Butler. It's a pretty good place to start this turn.
Again, Chihuahua has the advantage when it comes to inevitability. So
Absolutely.
A lot of this is just blooding Jesse's offense.
Coming on in. 2 damage will be dealt. I'm going to go down to 16. Will Butler cast that Ponder? Or anything for that matter.
It seems unlikely to me since he still has Counterspell in hand. I would be really surprised if it was Ponder. If he's going to cast anything, it's going to be True Name Nemesis, I feel like.
Chihuahua going to cast a Source of Plowshares after the damage is dealt on Butler's end step. There goes the very annoying Mishra's Factory. I'm going to draw a card. Not a miracle this go around.
And this game's going just at a great pace for Chihuahua right now. Jessie is neither advancing his board nor casting counterspells on things. So
in the draw step, I'm going to cast a Vendilion Click. Butler says, I would like to counter that, please, and thank you. Well, we have a battle over this.
Yeah, Jessie kind of has to make his stand here.
I just love that Click forces the action.
It's so important in these mirror matches.
Yeah.
Not that these are exactly mirror matches, but they're close enough.
Relevant clock and get your information.
Very good against Jace.
Yeah. Scalding Turn going to get sacrificed, going to get a basic island. Might be Ponder time now. And it is. Let's see if Butler can find what he's looking for. 3 cards coming here. See a Spell Pierce among them. That was a very quick shuffle. Did not take long to think about that one.
Needs to find something proactive. He needs something to do.
Picks up a draw from the mystery and just passes it back over to Yim, who is going to play a Flooded Strand and now a Jace the Mind Sculptor.
Oh boy.
It's time to brainstorm.
We've seen this before. Jace on an empty board, and Chihuahua's even found a Terminus here to clean up whatever Jesse's follow-up is.
And the problem here is you have to imagine Jesse's going to play follow-up things, likely that True Name Nemesis. Actually, that's no longer there.
No, he's still
No, there
got
it is. Okay, sorry. He went through his hand pretty quickly. Here's a Ponder. Force of Will among the cards. He's going to take that one to the grip. Or will he? A little shuffle action.
I think the 2 lands are too big of a cost for him to pay there. And it's, he doesn't even really have a backup blue card right now if he does decide to cast this True Name Nemesis. So.
Snapcaster Mage picked up. There is the True Name Nemesis. Gonna try to threaten Jace with that, but Chihuahua is at the ready. Terminus that, thank you much. And now it's time to brainstorm. Jace is starting to work overtime, Patrick.
And that was a little bit of risky business there from Chihuahua if he had no way to reset that Terminus, but he correctly predicted that Jessie was going to cast something that turn. And even better than getting a Batterskull token for a few turns is getting that True Name Nemesis forever.
Since his Divine Top comes in, it's time to spin it. Again, Butler with a Batterskull and a Snapcaster Mage in the grip. Going to sacrifice Flooded Strand. Will Yim going to reset that top, go get himself a Tundra. Looks like it's time to spin again and treat the Angels among the cards. You also see Counterbalance. Smart play there. Shuffle around those cards pretty good. Don't give away any information. And now here is Counterbalance. We're working our way towards the lock. Snapcaster Mage. Can that come out and play? Yim says, let me take a look at your graveyard before I make my decision. Ah, there's a counterspell. There's a Force of Will down there. He says, I have Snapcaster Mage of my own. And I'm looking at a Red Blast. My Red Blast is going to take care of your Snapcaster Mage because I know the last card is Batterskull.
Yep.
I've known that for some time. Now it's time to take a look at the top card. And he says, you can leave that there. Flooded Strand going to sacrifice.
The old gambit there is, always leave it on top 100% of the time because they're just going to shuffle with their fetch land.
One day someone's going to do that and it's going to come back to bite them.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
In spots where I've been dead 100% of the time, I have drawn just to see what my opponent was up to. I haven't been able to pull a trigger on a game where it was in contention, unfortunately.
Batterskull comes into play. Yim's actually going to show and treat the Angels on the top of his deck, maybe to say, hey, I kind of got you here.
Yeah, he has entreat and effectively unlimited supply of unsummons.
Yeah, an extension of the hand is going to do it. As that Batterskull Germ token will get unsummoned by Jace. Chihuahua Yim moves on to 3-0-1. Blue-White-Red Miracles doing what Blue-White-Red Miracles does, winning a match with very little time left on the clock. Blue-White Stoneblade is defeated. Butler picks up his first loss. Not sure if that's going to knock him out of top 8 contention. All he can do is continue to play on. But Yim will also do the same with no losses on his record.
That's the big upside of Intrigue for that deck, is it can now win matches pretty quickly instead of just having to lean on Jace locks or Mishra's Factory beatdowns or whatever was going on before.
Yep.
Intrigue naturally fits into that deck and gives the deck a fast kill, which is needed in a tournament environment.
Absolutely. Chihoy Yim, again, a player who we have seen make an invitational top 8 2 years ago in Atlanta. Multiple Open Series wins. He does well at these tournaments, and he's always playing a deck that does relatively nothing.
Yeah, just likes to spin his wheels. Protect himself. Win arbitrarily.
Just that life ain't for me.
No, it's not for me either.
No.
The Andrew Cuneo school of why kill your opponent when you can instead just not kill them.
Yes. Put them into submission, as it were.
The sleeper holes.
Yeah, I suppose, as all of my opposition and Winter Orb and Tanglewire talk, I like to put my opponents in a different kind of submission, I suppose, where they can't do anything, but